Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been sharing how I often go to parks, public parks, and hand out cards about my books and tell people about the main message of my books, which is trying to help people discern God's will and get inspired by God and basically have conversations with God that they can rely on when they're making decisions. So I'm going to continue with that process of talking about that again today. So I got inspired one day. I was planning out my week, and I was inspired to pick a couple of days during that week that I would go to some parks and pass out cards and talk to people about my books and my radio show. And so I was inspired to pick a certain day and also to pick a certain time to go to the parks. So as I left my driveway, pulled out of my driveway to go to a park on that day that I was inspired to go, I pulled out of my driveway and I noticed that the car right in front of me had a license plate number with 3 sevens, 777, which is God's number, as you all know by now. So that was a good start to the event because I had prayed and got inspired to go on a certain day and at a certain time. And just as I pulled out of the driveway, I was right behind a car with the number 777 on their plate. That's an excellent way to start a mission for God, or a mission that God has inspired, to see his number in front of you as you pull out of your driveway. Then I had to get some gas, so I stopped at the gas station, and I got inspired to do that. Which gas station? I decided about halfway down would be the gas station to stop at. And after I filled up, the bill came out to $21.21. And if you've been listening to our shows for a while now, you know that excites me, because the cost of the gas, $21.21, is convertible into 3 7s, because 3 times 7 is 21. So the bill again was $21.21. I bring this up because when you're pumping gas or you're shopping and your bill comes out to $7.77 or $8.88 or $21 even, or $21.21, you also may be encouraged to notice that God is patting you on the back, tapping you on the head, trying to make you notice that he's with you. He often does that with numbers. It's a way of him using like a Morse code system to get our attention. All right, so I got to the park. After we got the gas, I saw 3 sevens, as I just indicated to you. I was kind of pumped that God was with me now. And I got there, and I was passing cards out and talking to people about the books. And I always ask people to share their miracles with me so I can put them on the radio show. And I did get an excellent case of a nurse was with her sister. They were at this park. They were sitting on a blanket enjoying the sun. And I talked about my book and handed out the card, and they asked about the book. I told them about Coincidence Miracles, and then I asked them if they had one, and they were delighted to tell me about, they recently attended a gathering, 3 sisters. They went out for breakfast together to commemorate the 5th anniversary of their father's passing, and then they took some photographs on the way out outside the restaurant after breakfast, and she even showed me a copy of a picture that they were taking of each other, and a person went by and offered to take the shot of all 3 of them. And in that shot, she showed me the picture of where on her blouse, the sun and the reflection of the sun and the ripples in her blouse were in such a way that when they took the picture, what was revealed was a picture of her father's face on her blouse. And she showed me a picture of her father in a photograph taken of him when he was still living. And she showed me the picture of this after breakfast picture of where on her blouse was a picture of her father's face. Pretty remarkable thing. So I share that with you because you'll notice things like that in your life and from other people as well. And while I was talking to them, a 6-year-old came over and tugged on my shirt and said, excuse me, my mom asked me to ask you for a card. So I handed her a card, and she ran over to her mom. I guess her mom was about a city block away, but her mom was in a place where I'd already passed out cards, and I guess her mom heard from the other people that I was passing out cards about the book, and she asked for one. And then the child, the 6-year-old, came back again and said, my mom asked if you could please come down and see her. Can you please come and see her next? So I waved yes, and I waved to the mother, and then I went down. Turned out that the mother had been praying for a miracle. She'd had some difficult moment in her life that week, and she had prayed for a miracle. And when she saw that I was passing out cards about miracles, she was all excited to talk about it. So I stopped by and I told her about, how, and you certainly know by listening to all of our past shows, how God sends us coincidence miracles. And I shared the process with her, and I told her about our book, which the title of the book is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. So that was all a wonderful experience, a coincidence by God that the mother had heard from other people because she arrived late after I had passed by that area of the park. But she heard from other people I was passing out a card about miracles, and she was interested in and desirous of a miracle that particular day. We had a great talk, and we both prayed. We both prayed for the miracle. And as I was leaving, I was inspired to hand her some metallic medals of the Blessed Virgin Mary. They're called miraculous medals. And I offered them to her, and she said, wow, this is amazing. She said, I'm sure this is a coincidence miracle because this morning, before I came to the park, a friend of mine asked me for a gold-colored medal, and all I had was the silver kind. And here I am, I come to the park, and you're handing out a gold-colored medal that the person asked me for before I came to the park. So this is definitely a miracle for both of us, I'm sure. The next group I talked to was a group of 6 people, 2 fathers who had brought 2 teenagers each with them in their family. So this group of 6 together. And we talked about the books, and we talked about how you can ask God what to do, and how we often get ideas in our mind, and ideas are from God. If we pay attention to the ideas, very often ideas are coming from God to get our attention. And while we were doing all this, one of the fathers got very concerned about his son was out in the ocean and going too far out, and he was trying to get his attention, and he was yelling, waving his hands, and he was getting very frantic about it. So I got inspired on the spot by God to suggest something to him as follows. So I suggested to the dad in front of the whole 6 people, look, why don't you just practice what we just talked about? Ask God to put an idea into your son's head out there in the ocean to inspire your son to turn and look toward you. So we just talked about how that is possible. And he said, okay, I will try it. So he stopped what he was doing. He prayed briefly. He asked God to put an idea into his son's head to turn and look at him, and he got all excited because as soon as he did it, instantaneously, his son turned around, looked at him, and caught the vision of his father waving for him to come back in from the ocean. And then when his son came up, he explained to him he was getting too far out. But the whole thing was so marvelous because this was 6 people together on a blanket, and one of the children was out there in the ocean, and it absolutely worked. We were talking about asking God to plant an idea in people's heads, or how God plants ideas in our own head, and he actually asked God to put an idea in his son out in the ocean, and absolutely the son came back. At the end of the day, I was tired. I had handed out about 100 cards to various people and actually had discussions with people as I handed them out. They asked a lot of questions. Maybe 30 different groups had asked questions. So I was pretty tired, and I had a long drive home. So I was getting ready to go. And as I was walking toward the exit, my eye caught a vision of a young couple off on a blanket, about half a city block away. And it was kind of a deserted area. They were way off at the end of the beach. But I got inspired to go down and talk to them, and I thought, gee, Lord, really? Because it's quite a distance down and back, and, I'm close to the exit right now. And God inspired me, Tony, trust me, sometimes it's the last person you see that makes all the difference. So I walked over and I handed a card to the couple, and immediately the man asked me a question. He said, First he asked what the book was about, and I told him that, but then he asked me a question. He said, you're kind of blowing my mind, he said, because my girlfriend and I were just now talking about how can we be sure that we're doing God's will when we're making the decisions. We were talking about making a couple of decisions, and we wanted to be sure we're doing God's will, and we're talking about how do we know that, how should we make sure, and how should we go about doing that. And here you're over here, you walk up and talk about miracles and how you're getting inspired by God to do his will. So, you certainly got my attention. But tell me, how do you know that you're not kidding yourself and just pointing at things that are happening that are confirming what you're doing, and then you're saying that's God's will? And so I explained to him that in my book I cover the area of fleecing, and in the book it explains that you ask God specifically, you ask God to show you some clues, show you some signal or some sign that you should do the thing that you have just thought about. So you're praying to God, you get ideas, you get inspirations, and then you ask God, what kind of a clue will I see? And then he puts into your mind that you'll see a certain thing, like someone will call you by 3 o'clock, or a certain car will go by with a certain license plate, or you're going to go shopping and your bill is going to come out to a certain price, whatever God puts into your mind as the sign of evidence that he wants you to do that thing. And I told him if he goes to my book, there are about 10 examples in my book that clearly show God doing this in the Bible many, many times. The main one is Book of Judges in the Bible. Book of Judges chapter 6 is a clear signal of where God gives people evidence that he is talking to them, and shows them by the evidence that they are hearing his messages. And he was so delighted and ecstatic. He absolutely said, I can't wait to get my hands on your book. This is fantastic. Exactly what we needed. And I told him our website allows him to listen to the book for free, so that really got him excited, because he said he's going to listen to it that very night, because he needs to make some serious decisions and wants to know how to get signs and clues from God. I was certainly delighted, because as God inspired me, sometimes it's the last person you talk to that makes all the difference, and that really happened just now. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.